Hey everyone, my name is James.
And I'm Kevin, and I am here in the same room this time.
Yeah, we're actually really excited about this. So we're the WP Ninjas. Some of you know us, have been communicating with us on Twitter, have been commenting on our blog, which we really appreciate you joining the conversation. But it's really kind of cool. Kevin is visiting from England for the next, how many more weeks?
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
3 more weeks.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a fun thing. We thought we'd do one of our second. This is our second video in this series of building a business or developing a product. I think you have a text.
I do.
Of building a product on the WordPress system, and developing this product and selling it and all the things that go along with it, right?
Yeah, and kind of the perspective of that from two guys who have not made it yet. So we're not millionaires, and we're not retrospectively looking backward and saying, hey, this is exactly what we did, do this. We're saying this is how we're trying it, and maybe it'll work.
Maybe it'll work. But either way, right, we'll have a record of it. You can go back and say, hey, I remember when they were discussing this particular topic and it failed miserably.
Exactly.
And now we have a record of it.
Exactly.
I will say this from a business perspective, and we wrote about this on in our blog post. So why we all suck at pricing is that businesses are not static. They're constantly changing and growing. They are much like a human organism, right? They're developing, and you have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to fall on your face. Yeah, experimentation and an exploration of ideas. Because if you don't do that, you're just gonna be boring, and who cares what you're doing?
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So we're excited to have Kevin here in the States, and so we thought it would be fun to do the second video with us together. And so today, since we just yesterday published our post on the challenges and costs of supporting WordPress products,
right?
And one of the items in the comments that seemed to that kind of hit people is our idea for support.
Right.
So why don't we today, for our second video, we're not really doing this in a logical order per se, like, hey, when you're starting a business, you want to think about this, then you want to think about this, then you want to think about this. We're just going to hit some topics. So one of those topics is support.
Yeah, support is a very big hot button issue in WordPress plugins and themes right now. You may have seen the Woo Themes recent change in their pricing structure.
Yeah. And
we'll talk about pricing in another video, but support was a big part of that.
Yeah, in fact, that was one of their main reasons for citing the need to make the change, right? That they were offering unlimited updates, unlimited support for these products, and as their user base has gotten so large, they've determined we can't do it. We can't offer free support for all of these people. Now, it was a whole debacle, and people were upset, and some people were cheering them on, and we're not going to get into the moral, ethical, who did what right, wrong, or whatever the case may be, but it's obviously an important topic.
Yes, support's obviously something that no one has figured out the perfect way to do it in the WordPress community. Or I would even suggest in software in general, it's a tricky issue.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Like, we were talking about different support and talking about releasing products. Like, when we think about plugins, I don't think we think of them like software usually.
Right.
We think of them as, I don't know how we think of them, but I don't think of them like I do like Windows
or Office
or something like that. Where, to be honest, if you have a problem with your operating system, it's hard to find any place where you can actually submit support. I mean, they have help documents, they have a knowledge base, but good luck trying to get an actual person to help you.
Right.
You buy that software and you expect it to work, and if you can't get it to work, you get a buddy who knows
who knows how to do it.
Right.
Exactly.
Who knows technical things, and you get them to help you. But generally, support's not even there.
Right.
It's just a product.
Right.
Support is a challenge, and as your user base grows, you're gonna get more support tickets.
Right, that's just the way. Yeah. Now, what we're gonna do in this video, I think mainly, is talk about our experiences with support.
Yeah.
Because I can't speak to Woo Themes or any other company. I can't speak to their support, and I don't know what their support tickets are like, but I know what ours are like.
Well, I know when we first started out with support, with Ninja Forms. Now, Ninja Forms has been around in some way, shape, or form for a year and a half, 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
So Ninja Forms has been around now. We like to not talk about the 1.0
days. Year one. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. We don't like to talk about that. 2.0,
right.
Phenomenal.
Right, that's
phenomenal.
where we started. Yeah.
But we did have a 1.0, and at that time, as well as even into the 2.0 stage, our main way of supporting were open support forums.
Right.
So, you want to talk about your challenges with that, like how you dealt with these open support forums? Now, we're not just talking about support forums, but we have other products on the WordPress repo as well.
Right.
And we have all those free forums that WordPress, which we're grateful that WordPress provides them.
Sure.
But there's a lot of places to check for support tickets.
Yeah, it was so overwhelming that so many things just fell through the cracks. I don't at this point I don't advocate using a forum for support from the manufacturer or the programmer, coder, or whatever of the product. If you're going to have support as a user knowledge base, I think that's one thing.
Or community members helping other community members. Right.
Exactly. But I don't like that for me because I would just lose track of stuff. It would just go away. And we recently went to the WordPress repo and put a sticky post on the WordPress repo asking people to direct their support requests to our website, just because we need a centralized place to handle all of that stuff.
Now, the advocate for having support forums, a lot of people say the reason we like support forums is because we like to have a searchable, browsable user system, knowledge base of previous requests where I can, if I have a problem, I don't want to have to ask a question or post a ticket. I like to be able to look at what everyone's posts. But interestingly enough, and I know nobody likes to hear this, but the people who actually search for their solution in a knowledge base or a support system or whatever the case may be is a very small percentage. And my case in point in that is if you look at Ninja Forms, the repo, the WordPress repo, and look at our support tickets, you'll see people are still submitting support tickets, even though there's a sticky that says, important, read this first, support policy, don't submit tickets here if you want help from the developers. They still post them there.
Right.
And we understand that's a public forum, but we give them direction. Come to our site. It's free to submit a ticket. You don't have to pay us to support a ticket to submit a ticket. And yet they don't read it. So if they don't read that, do you really think they're digging through hundreds of support tickets to find that one issue?
Right. I think that there's another deeper problem, though, when you talk about using forums as a knowledge base. Because when people ask questions about how to solve a particular answer, a particular problem they're experiencing, they're not going to always word their question in a way that you would word it if you were perhaps asking the same question. So let's say someone is looking for a particular setting in your plugin, and they ask in the most esoteric, obscure way possible, and then somebody else comes to your support forum and has that same question, but they don't search for those keywords. So with a support forum, you can't curate that as well as you could just having good support documents, because with the support documents you could title things and make sure that the keywords that people would probably be searching for would be there.
Yeah. Another problem with that too is I think people read their own issues into other people's tickets. So you're struggling with this problem, and so you search somebody's knowledge base or support tickets, and you see this question, and because they have one keyword that's the same keyword that you would use, you go, oh, well, that's my issue. And if you've ever worked in the WordPress forums, and I try to help out there occasionally, if you've ever been in there, you see so many people jump on to somebody else's ticket saying, oh, I have this issue too, only but and they changed the ticket completely. Like that wasn't the original poster's issue, and now you've turned it into your issue. So it's bad because it distracts from the original poster's issue, so they don't get the best support they can get. It's bad for the user who takes over the forum post because that issue is not necessarily the same issue. And the solution that may have been given to that original poster, you might implement, and it may break something because it wasn't your problem. So there's whole kinds of... And then there's just the idea that, most recently commented to forum posts get pushed to the top, and as a developer, you're trying to support your product, you go in there and all you're seeing is all your responses at the top, and now you have to go through pages of old tickets to find out what hasn't been resolved. And I hated forums. I think I could be wrong, and I hate to put this on video where it'll be immortalized forever, but I don't think I will ever go back to using forums for customer developer level support.
Right, I totally agree. It's just too easy for things to get lost. I have 1,000,001 things that I have to be working on code wise in any given day, and I will lose things. That's why we don't handle support in email, because it's too easy for me to lose stuff. I'm already scatterbrained, and you know this because you handle a lot more of the support stuff than I do. If you don't assign tickets to me, I don't see them.
Yeah, they may not.
Even with our current ticketing system.
Well, and that's you bring up another point. So you have forums as a support process. Other people like email as a support process. And what I've found, especially email's fine, especially if it's a one-to-one. Email works fine if you're the only person getting the support emails and you're responding to them and it's going back and forth. But because we're two people trying to support a system, if you get it, if we can send that email to a general system, but now you've got to copy me every time you respond, and I end up with forks of support questions that way, and you do as well. And that's just frustrating. It's fine. The user sometimes doesn't notice that, but from a developer standpoint, or the person actually handling the support, that's chaotic. It's really messy.
So let's pause there for a second. So I think we've gotten the point across that we don't like forums for support.
Don't like forums. Don't like email.
Right. So let's talk about what we've learned about the support requests that we get.
Right.
Again, I can't talk about. Okay, thanks. There we go. That's better.
Just make some adjustments.
That's good. We can't talk about other people's support requests, but we can talk about what we've noticed about our support requests.
Sure.
And I think that you've written a couple of blog posts that have been spot on about the types of support that we get are the people who don't know how to do something.
Right.
The product isn't doing what it's supposed to do.
Sure.
And then I think the product should be doing this, but it doesn't.
Right. And I think that probably is... I mean, there are probably other types of support requests, but I think that's probably the top three.
Yeah.
I don't know how this setting works or how I'm supposed to do this particular thing that you say your plugin does.
Right.
Or the product is just simply not working.
Right. I mean, we've gotten several support tickets just based around settings. Like, how do I have the form email me when someone submits a form? Which, from our standpoint, it can be easy to overlook those kinds of simple questions because we built the plugin, and so of course we know how it works. And to us, that seems simple, but we're not looking at this thing for the first time. So a lot of those can be easily answered by some docs and pointing people to docs, I think.
Yeah, what I'd like to say about support, and we moved to a ticket-based system.
Yes.
So
that's actually a custom-built system built on Ninja Forms.
Yes, which we hope to release to the greater community eventually as a possible support solution for those who want to use it. But yeah, it's built specifically on Ninja Forms. It's using multi-part forms. It's using front-end posting or front-end editing, and I mean just using a lot of different features. And I really like it because it gives us a lot of control. Gives us one funnel for everything to come into, and then lets us reroute it as need be. But so we moved to this ticket system, and one of the things that when we talk about when we're talking about support is that the cost of support.
Right.
Every ticket costs money. You're either spending money and time in development or time in debugging or time whatever. Support costs money. What I think I like about the ticket system, and I think what some people miss about support is I don't think support has to always be increasing cost of money, or at least I think that support tickets mean more. And what I guess what I would say is I look at every support request as an opportunity.
Okay.
All right. So when a support ticket comes in, I look at it as either it's an opportunity for me to write better documentation. Because I obviously did not have something there that would have explained this for them in the first place, whether that be within the plugin or on our site.
I think the email example is a really good example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get that for any number of things.
Sure.
The other thing it is in a lot of ways, sometimes our users are our first line of product. I don't want to say our first line because we do testing. We test all of our plugins, but sometimes they do things that we don't think to do.
Yes, users have done things in Ninja Forums that I would have never done on my own.
It seems like we couldn't have even imagined that they would have used it for this purpose or done it in this way.
Or maybe their server is set up. Their version of PHP is different, or their mailing system is different.
And so each of those are opportunities to either write better documentation or make the plugin better.
I agree.
And so to me, support isn't. We look at support as it's costing. It's adding more. It's taking money or time away from us the more we spend in support.
Sure.
But that's, to me, is a very cynical and one-sided way to look at support. To me, support is an opportunity to wow the customer, to improve documentation, to improve the plugin, so that support tickets decrease, not increase, because you've got better documentation. And at the very least, if it doesn't decrease the support, it shortens the amount of time it takes to answer it, because your answer can many times be, we have a document that explains exactly that.
Yeah, I think in our experience, a very small fraction of our support requests are actually things that Ninja Forums does a bug. So that's a minority of our support requests. And the majority of our support requests are like you said, how do I do this? How do I change this setting, or where is this setting found, that kind of stuff. And you answer those more than I do, but you can answer those in 30 seconds. If you have a document written for it, you can just link into the document, and that fixes 90% of the cases.
And that comes back to what I mean about an opportunity to write better documentation, because even if I don't have a documentation written for it at that moment, generally when I get a support request, my first instinct is, do I need to write a document for this? And then if I do, I create the document and I point them to it as my response, and I assume that they will, the next person won't have to ask that question. And if they do, I don't have to write it again. I already did.
Oh, definitely. I think for me, I look at the support requests which deal with bugs, which are the ones that I deal with a majority of. So that's the ones I see more of. I see them as ways to improve the plugin and to make the code base better. So if someone reports a bug, to me, that's not wasted time, because they found something that I didn't know to do. They've put together Ninja Forums or the extensions in such a way that I didn't think to do. So that's helpful to me. And so I don't consider those to be a horrible time sink.
I would also say, too, on one level, too, we look at those things, and we call them bugs because, we're like, oh, well, this makes the product better, and so we want to fix it. But in a lot of ways, plugins you don't create a plugin and it's perfect day one.
Sure.
I would dare say it's probably not perfect day 720.
It's not perfect, and we're on day at least 300 and something.
So a lot of these times, these aren't necessarily bugs per se. I mean, they may be. Sometimes they are absolutely things that were done wrong.
I use bug loosely.
Yeah. Sometimes our customers are helping us mature the product.
Right.
They come up with a use case and we're like, wow, this will really help it mature.
Right.
And we are grateful for that. So I actually love support.
Sure.
I love doing customer service. I love working with our customers.
Right. I think that there's an easy example to give would be with file uploads, because the file uploads plugin, if you use it in conjunction now with front-end posting or front-end editor, you can actually set featured images. And in the past, that we didn't have that feature, and someone on the support system said, "Hey, is there a way that we can create featured images?" And that's just something that you and I hadn't thought about when we built the plugins, and so that was something that we could just fix and roll out, and so it improved the product. It made the
for them
better.
And for everyone who buys it in the future. So yeah, absolutely. Now we have recently in our post discussed. Now we're already almost there. I mean, we don't necessarily offer free support for our products. I mean, right now we do unlimited updates for 1 site, 2 to 5 sites, or unlimited sites. We've talked about we obviously need to change that.
Right.
That we'll talk about that in pricing models in the future. Yeah. We do not advocate selling unlimited support and unlimited updates forever.
Right. That's very.
I can say that we see benefit of doing that in early stages as you are building momentum. But at some point, before it gets too far, you've got to make that change.
Sure.
And we're there. I mean, we're at that point where we're like, we need to make that change, and we're taking steps to do that. But one of the things, the reason why we say that's difficult is because one of those is increasing support.
Yeah. And
so I posted in our post the other day, the costs and challenges of selling WordPress products. I talked about the idea of changing to a pay per ticket support process.
Why don't you unpack that a little bit?
Well, here's the thing. Everybody needs a place to ask a question. I mean, you buy a product, you need to be able to ask a question. Sure. And so we want a place where people can submit requests, bugs, how-tos, whatever the case may be.
Right.
They can submit those and ask those questions freely without having to have a support contract in place.
Right, because you don't know if it's a bug. You don't know. I mean, if you're a user, you don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea what your problem is.
Right.
And not only that, but we have some users who are using just Ninja Forms, and they're not necessarily customers using the extension, and they may have questions about the actual product or bugs, like you said, and not know what's going on. And they need a safe place to answer those questions. Here's the thing. I personally think support is unsustainable no matter what model you use. What I mean by that is you're going to take a loss in one way or another. Whether that means a support ticket comes in and it takes you hours to fix it.
Right.
If you do it for free, you're taking a loss.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it for free.
Yeah.
If you have a annual support subscription, even for $100, now as a developer, you probably charge, if you're a developer, if you're working with a developer, you probably charge upwards of $100, $200, $250 an hour for your development work. But say you didn't. Say you just $100. Let's just cap it at $100. Sure. And you charge for support $100.
Right.
You get one support ticket. It takes you an hour. You've
met that.
You met that quota in 1 year.
Yeah.
What if they need 20 hours of support or 40 hours of support?
Right.
It's astronomical.
Right.
Even if you only charge $25 an hour for your development time, 40 hours breaks the bank. You're at a loss, no matter what way you look at it. I am advocating moving to a pay per ticket, meaning every support is free on first contact. You shouldn't have to pay to reach out.
Sure. That makes sense.
You can submit your thing. As the developers, it's upon us to say, is this a bug and we should fix it?
Right.
Is this documentation that we should write?
Right.
Or is this an edge case, a specific, their own conflict that has nothing to do particularly with the code that we've written?
Right.
And if it's things that bugs, we fix them and we support it for free.
Sure, because it should be fixed.
Right. If it's documentation, we improve our documentation and we point them to it.
Right. We ask them, how could this documentation be improved after we answer the question?
Right.
Sure.
We work through them with that. And then if it's an edge case, or if it's custom support, or if it's their own unique setup, we are able to then say, hey, this particular ticket is going to cost this much money to do it. And they can choose, yes, help me with this particular ticket and pay for it. And then we help them. Or they can say, you know what? I'm willing to live with this because I don't want to pay that money. That's their prerogative. And the reason the reason we talk about this particular system, the reason I like it so much, is that one of the biggest complaints of users with any kind of subscription model is that some people don't need support. Some people, developers who know the code, who can dig in and can modify and do all that stuff, maybe they don't need support. They're comfortable with the code base. They're okay. Why should they have to foot the bill for the person who is going to submit 20 tickets? Maybe even not because they don't know the code, but because they just don't want to do the research and they just would rather just ask the question and get the assistance. Why? You could say, well, we charge $100 a year for support across the board. Everybody pays it. But now this person is paying it and asking no questions. And this person is getting much more than their fair share of support, even on that subscription model. By doing a pay per ticket, the only people who pay are the people who are using up the resource.
Sure, that makes sense.
And everyone has a touch base. So that's kind of what we were talking about. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think one of the things that doesn't get discussed in this support, in this support thing, my brain's not working.
In the support conversation.
Sure, thank you. Is that a majority of our support tickets are very similar and fall in same veins, not even just in the three themes you discussed, but in specifics. Yeah. So we get lots of support tickets that ask the same things. And
how to style a form.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so I think that we have to look at those. If we get more than one support ticket that asks something, then we need documentation on that.
Absolutely.
Because as you get those tickets in, you can that allows someone who is not a developer to work your support forums, because they can point people to documentation. And so as a business, you're not having to pay someone who is a developer to work your support forums. You're paying someone. I'm not advocating not paying people what they're worth, but you can pay someone who is.
But a support person is going to get paid less than a developer. Is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So support people learn to develop. I guess that's what I'm saying. So you can make support less expensive in that way, because it's not taking the resources of your developers to answer questions that are just pointing people to documentation. And I know for me, I can, within looking, because I've dealt with so many support tickets, I can, within looking at a ticket for 30 seconds, tell you, oh, that's a bug in code. That's my fault. I can say, well, I know
there's more than those than we like, right? Oh. I'm just saying, right? As developers,
I don't want any. So yes, more than
anything is like too
much. More than zero is too much. No. But I can tell if it's going to be something that is a theme conflict or a server conflict, or if it's our problem, or if it is just something that the extension simply doesn't do, but this person wants it to do.
Yeah.
So I think that for us anyway, and I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I can do that. I can look at it because I'm so familiar with the support tickets that we get, and I know what people are asking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in our posts, a lot of people have said that. They said, I think when we posted this idea of pay per ticket, they said, well, we like the idea, but what we think you might be missing is the cost of discovery, the time it takes to discover. And our defense to that is just that we are very familiar with our code base, and we're very familiar with the types of tickets that we get in, that it's going to be very rare that a ticket comes in that we don't instantly know. Matter of fact, we just got a ticket in recently, which I have to respond to as we're making this video. Well, not while we're making it, but right after. We just recently got a support ticket where somebody wanted to their multi-part form breadcrumbs, which are technically a list. It's a list of the different pages. It's an LI element. Has the bullet points.
Right.
Now, in our plugin, we remove the bullet points for this element, and they're wondering why are these bullets showing up?
That's a perfectly legitimate question.
It's absolutely legitimate, and they should have a safe place to ask that question, which is why we have a ticket system. But I know instantly why that happened. I know that in their theme, generally when you're styling a UL element, you add the list style to the UL element. Right. Is it a disk? Is it a square? Is it whatever it is? Yes. It is. That's generally where you do it. But on some edge cases, some CSS designers will add it to the LI element for some reason.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure why they do that. I'm sure there's reasonings or logic that they do that. But I know exactly what it is. It's something styling in their theme that's causing that problem.
Right.
So I haven't even pulled up the support ticket.
You know what it is.
I just got the notification and I instantly went, I know what that problem is.
Yeah.
And it's a fair question. It's something that maybe as in our CSS, in our own thing, I might be able to mitigate that and stop that. But it's not essentially our fault. We haven't done anything wrong. It is a conflict with the theme.
Right.
But that's something I don't mind helping and supporting, even for free. I mean, because I know it takes me 2 seconds to point them in the right direction.
Now, if in that case, let's say that we have this new support system in place where people are paying for support on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
Would that person have to pay for support, and at what point would they start paying for it? For example, would you go in for free and say, hey, I know this is a problem with your theme, without looking at it? Or would you look at their theme and explain to them, take the time to explain to them what their theme is doing wrong, and then say, I will charge you X to fix it? Or would the fee be, I know it's your theme, it's going to cost you this much for me to look at your site and tell you exactly where that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's actually where it gets a little tough, right?
Okay.
It gets into that sticky situation where it's a little subjective. Like, it depends on how you ask me. No, I'm just kidding. Like, if you're nice and you're polite and I'm willing to do more for you for free. No. Well, that's true, though. I mean, we joke about that, but in fact, that's actually true. When you're nicer to us, we're going to be more inclined to help you.
Human nature.
Human nature. But what I would say is, I do look at the amount of time it's going to take me to look at.
Right.
For instance, we've had some issues with users using Ninja Forms with headway themes.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with headway themes, it's a complete graphical drag and drop kind of UI to kind of design this theme. It's a great concept, and lots of people use the theme. It's very popular. We don't have any problems with the theme.
No.
But users generally don't know how to use it properly, and they don't know why things aren't working the way they want them to, because it does things in a way that is foreign to WordPress.
Right.
And so it's kind of difficult. Now, on the back end, it may be doing things that are very common to WordPress, but on the front end side, it's very difficult. And so troubleshooting that is definitely a lot more difficult than me saying, oh, you got this theme from the repo and they added the LI style, or to the his style to the LI element. Right. That's a little bit more difficult to kind of work through. So I would say one thing is, from our perspective, we want happy customers. And if it's not going to take us a lot of time to figure it out, I'm going to answer as many questions as I can for free.
Right.
Because I just want you to be happy. And if I can take care of it, that's great. I would say more times than not, if I have to get into your website, into your admin panel, or if I need FTP access to help you fix a problem, that's generally going to cost you. Because I'm taking time. I'm going to have to set up and connect to your FTP and download files and make changes. I'm going to have to log into your admin.
Right.
That kind of debugging takes time. I don't mind being able to just pulling up your website and inspecting an element and going, oh, it's this line. I can tell you the line number and fix this. Or, in most cases, I can say, purchase layout and styles, and you can style any element that you want, and it'll override whatever your theme is doing.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's in a lot of cases. I think that's the case. But what I like about it is, with the pay per ticket system too, is in the early stages of development, when you're trying to build reputation and you're trying to wow your customers and you're trying to be good to everybody that you can. You always want to be that. You can do more free in the beginning. That's not as scalable.
Right.
And offer that free support. But by having this system in place, when it gets to the point that you can't, you just switch.
Right.
You just turn the switch. It's built in and you're ready to go. And you say, hey, listen, normally we would have done this for free, but we've gotten to the point now where our requests are coming in so feverishly, we can't.
Right.
Can't do it.
I think I also like the idea that it allows our third-party developers the ability to do some support tickets for their plugins and make money off of it, because if we were handling all the support for the third-party extensions and we were charging a fee, then the third-party developers, it'd be more difficult to figure out how much they get for support. And does it make sense?
Yeah, I like it because we're using Ninja Forms, and in case you're wondering, we have some payment gateways that are under development right now, and so we probably won't move to this pay-per-ticket system until that payment gateway is in place.
Sure.
But when it is in place, we can automate the system that whomever the ticket is assigned to, they're the ones who get paid for that support ticket if it's escalated to a paid ticket.
Sure.
I think the thing that's important to me about the pay-per-ticket system is this, that no ticket should be assumed to be paid upon first contact.
Right.
No user should ever think, I'm going to have to pay for this right off.
Right, because they don't know what's wrong with it.
They don't know what's wrong, and there should be a little bit of level of discovery, and that's why we are the experts for our plugin. We know what their situations are in most cases.
Sure. Now, do you think that you would be able to, what's the time period if you hired a new person? Because one of the things that might be brought up against the per ticket system is that, sure, that works for us because we're both in the code all the time, and we know what's going on. What's the time period for hiring a new person who's never used Ninja Forms, knows a little bit about coding, but not a developer, because we don't have enough money to pay a full-time developer. So what's the time period, do you think, for them to learn what is a paid ticket and what's not, and how quickly they can discern that? because again, that's easy for us because we're into this. But I can see that would be something that could be brought against the per ticket pay system on a larger scale.
Well, to be honest, I don't know that that's any more of an indictment against the pay per ticket system as any forum system, because at any time you take on new support, there's going to be a learning curve of what is this ticket and how does that work and what's the issue. So I don't know if I have an answer to that specifically. Okay. I don't, if I'm being honest, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we hire somebody.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's the only way we're going to find out.
Right. Fair enough.
But it's a good question. I don't know. I really like this idea of pay per ticket. I really like the idea.
I noticed.
But again, I like it because it puts the cost on the people who need it.
Right.
And it saves the people who don't need it money.
Right.
And they can run their business and continue doing what they're doing. And I really like that option. I also like the option is that support isn't behind a paywall.
Right.
The paywall comes after. You don't. Right. The payment comes in the support process, not on initial contact, and that's important because I think support is for everyone. May not always be free, but support is for everyone, and everyone should have an opportunity to at least make the inquiry to begin with. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Any closing thoughts? We've been talking for a really long time,
we really have.
I'm curious whether or not anyone will even watch this whole video. So.
I don't. It's very nice to be here in America and to be in your office. This won't happen again for another year, so.
Well, maybe we might be able to pull off one more.
No, sure. But I meant I'm only here for a few more weeks, and I'll be gone for a year.
Right, and that's cool. So everyone knows that Kevin is in England, and he's doing his whole PhD thing. And his wife is working in England. But in a year, he's moving back, and we will be working in the same location.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, so that'd be good. All right. Well, so that was our talk on support. We covered a lot of stuff and rambled a lot.
If you listened through this whole thing, then you should get a medal of some kind. I'm not sure. Maybe like a little ninja head. Maybe if you watch this entire video, send an email to info@wpninjas.com with the subject line of "I watched it all," and we will send you at our expense a WP Ninjas sticker.
Okay. All right.
In the mail.
Done. So if you watch it, send us an email with your address, name and address. Yes. We'll send you a WP Ninja sticker. It would be our pleasure to do it.
Yeah.
info@wpninjas.com. Thanks for watching. This is the first. We'll try to keep the others a little bit shorter, but no promises. Thanks, and have a good one.